Joining me this morning on the banks of Meadowlands Fishery, which is just outside Warwickshire. And I can't believe it, but I was just getting ready to talk to you and I've hooked one, so let's get this in first. I'm fishing a short pole, about 5 metres, 8mm hard pellet, and it's quite good, to say the least. Biggest fish I've had is about £17, but the average is about something like this, about £8. So what we've got is we've got a 14-acre lake, which is called Lambsdown. It's quite deep in areas. It's well, very deep in areas. One bank, which is the deep bank, is up to about 15 foot at 13 or 14 metres, and obviously about 7 foot deep at 5 or 6 metres. Then you've got what we call the pump bank, which is the bank between the two lakes, which is Warren and Lambsdown, which is where I am now, which is I'm fishing peg 46. They're all pretty similar along here. And I'm fishing about 4.5 foot at 5 metres, so this bank's a lot shallower. Then you've got the far bank, which is also a lot shallower. They're peg numbers 51 to 72. What we're catching a few carp. We've got about 10 so far, which was a good start. The wind's blowing in our faces, so there's probably always going to be carp here. Feeding hard eights, fishing hard eights, basically lowering a rig over when we throw some free offerings in. I'm fishing 020 to 020 to a 14 hook with a mini bait band. A Frenzee FO1 float, which is like a diamond pattern with a nice buoyant tip. It's so robust, it's line through body. I think I've only ever broken one, and that actually came back and really smashed my pole. So, but most of the time when they hit the pole, they don't break. We're a couple of inches over depth. A lot of people fish this hard pellet at dead depth, but I like to swing my rig out and fish on the slope. So at least then, if I have swung it out, at least I know the bait is on the bottom. Okay, it might be just touching out there, but it's worth searching your swim for your next fish. So on this lake we've got a big head of carp, ranging from £3 to just touching £30. The majority are between, say, £8 and £15. You can come here and expect to catch, well, expect to catch 30, 40, 50 carp in a session, which is quite nice, especially after you've had a few bad sessions. There we go, we've got one. So I'm using a fairly decent elastic for this. Nice and thick, carp elastic, because some of the fish that you catch, obviously, like I said earlier, are quite big. That one's, I would think, about 9 or 10 pound. That's what most of them are like, to be honest. Don't know whether you noticed when I played that fish in, but I didn't take my top kit off until the fish was really close. And what they tend to do here is you sort of feel like it's almost like they don't even know that they're hooked, and then you start pulling them back, you take your top kit off, you go to you show it the landing net, and they just scream away. And if you've taken your top kit off, you can't get them on quick enough, and you end up being broke. So I've hooked another fish on the 5 metre line. Just giving him some extra pole. I always find that's best. Gets the fish out the swim. Gives you a chance to feed more while he's out there. It wears him out. Have a swim around, bring him back in, and normally it's a lot easier to net, because you have worn him out. The fish here at Meadowlands fight like mad as well. Okay, so I've got him down in the top kit. I'm not taking the top kit off, just in case he decides he's going to have a run again. I don't think he's going to. Looks like we've got him in. How easy was that to net? That's the difference of playing a fish out of your swim. Also, when you're doing this fishing, you have basically got a choice of whether you use a lasso or a bait band. I tend to go for the bait bands because I always like to put a fresh bait on. There we go, look how quick it is now. So I like to put a fresh bait on, and if I'm using a lasso, I tend to get really lazy and not change the pellet like I think you should. That's just my tip. I mean, there's another fish, probably 8 or 9 pound, that one. And this method, this 5 metre method, is so good for catching lots of carp, especially late in your match. Well, if you're pleasure fishing, you can basically sit here all day just catching carp at 5 metres. But obviously match fishing's a little bit different. You have to try different methods. The bomb and the waggler work very well here. Long pole slapping works very well also. But this method here, if you're fishing a match, this is like really good with about an hour and a half to 2 hours left of your match. This line is deadly. With this 8mm pellet fishing, what I tend to find is the fish hear the noise as the pellets hit the water, and it's almost like they're looking for them to come down. I'm not saying they come up in the water for them, because I don't think you feed enough, and also the pellets are obviously quite heavy, being 8mm. So what I like to do is I like to feed and then lift the rig up, count to about 3 or 4, just trying to think about what time the pellet is in that last foot of water where the fish will be. So I like to slightly lift my rig and drop it down, and then you'd be amazed how many times that you get a bite and the fish is on, it's in the mouth, and away you go again. See, I could have took my top kit off there, but didn't. All right, it might not have broken me because it's coming again. So I'm using a nice heavy duty elastic. Not expecting anything to give really, even though sometimes we can be surprised. This is a big fish. But the last 3 fish you've seen me catch, or 2 fish including this one, this is quite common on this lake. Most of them are this size, and they fight like mad as well. There we go. So I reckon I've just put £30 in the net in 3 fish. Keep the feed going in. Once again, fresh pellet on because they fell out of the band. A little Frenzee bander tool there that I use. If I didn't have it, it would take me so much longer to put a pellet on my band. Oh, there we go, skimmer. See, it just goes to show that, you know, even though I'm feeding 8mm pellets, and quite a lot of them as well, there's so many fish down there and they're all eating them. I had a roach earlier as well. So even though the pellet's still on the band, I'm taking it off and putting a fresh one on. It's easily done. What I find best is, if you've got your line tight, it's so much easier to band your pellet. Keep the 8mm going in all the time. That went straight under. What I will say for this method is sometimes it's even too windy to try and hold the pole at 5 meters, and if it was like that now, I'd be using a pole support. So obviously a pole bar here, and probably, well, size of him, probably putting it between my legs, having a short line, laying on as well, probably more than 2 inches as well, just to try and keep the rig stable. And what happens is the fish takes your bait, and basically your pole tip just goes straight under the water because you've got another one. Such a great way to fish, this is. So this is a bit more detail about my rig for the day. Main line is 020. The hook length is also 020, but tied to a 14 hook, eyed hook, knotless knot, but got a little rubber band on the end just to put my 8mm pellet in. Okay, it's very simple, and simple is always best. So The way I've shotted it, I've got an Olivet, because this is an FO1 float, okay, and it's a gram. Diamond body, line through body, really strong. They're just so good for this sort of game anyway. So I've got 3 number 8s, okay, and I've got a 0.7 of a gram Olivet, which I prefer. The less, I've been asked whether I'll put back shot on them, but I don't, because the more shot that seems to go on the line, the weaker the line is. And when you're catching these, you're catching, like, sometimes on this short 5 metre line at Meadowlands here, you're catching 300, 400, 500 pound in a match. I think the match record is 570. My best record here, my match record is 470. So your kit goes through so much stick. So it's tied to a Frenzee Dacron connector, as you can see, double loop. Basically, that's it. It's nice and steady. It's nice and stable. I mean, here now we've got, okay, the wind's turned round during the day, but this rig has held bottom both, whichever way the wind's blown. It's so easy, so simple. 1 Olivet, 3 number 8 shot, job done. Right, so my bait choice for the day was quite simple really. It was just pellets. I started my swim off with half a pot like that of 6mm fishery pellets, and on top I added a few 8s. I'm going to fish 8s on the hook. That's really what I wanted to do, and so I've put that in, and within 10 minutes I've had my first bite. I've caught carp, 1 a put for probably 5 hours. This is all you need to catch carp. Now, if I'd have fed meat or corn or micros, I did some micros earlier on, as you can see. If I'd have fed that, I'd have been just battered by little roach and skimmers and stuff like that. And I know that's great fishing. I'm not against silverfish, but my aim for today was to catch carp, and that's what I've done. I've caught probably 300 pound of carp, just on 6 and 8mm pellets, mainly 8s to be fair. I've fed probably that amount of 8s twice. I've tended to feed 2 lots of that, and then I've been laying my rig in, and sometimes when it was really good, I was laying my rig in and it was just pulling my elastic out without even the bait getting to the bottom, which, you know, ideally that's just perfect. That's what you want. So, and then I had another stage where I was still feeding double lots of these, double handfuls, and I was counting to about 4. I was lifting my rig, dropping it, and my float would just settle and just go whoop, straight away. And all of these fish are in the mouth, which is where you're trying to be. That's how you don't want to be fouling hooked fish or anything like that. And the way to try and do that is to work your peg out. So to get more and more fish in your peg, I was feeding 2 lots of this, okay? And then as I felt I'd got a lot of fish in my peg, if I didn't feed anything at all, couldn't get a bite. So then what I did was I started feeding probably, well, maybe 4 or 5. That was it, just over the top of my float. And then I started catching again in the mouth, and that's the most important thing. Getting them in the mouth and try not to foul look at them. Yes, you'll always foul look fish because there's so many fish at Meadowlands on that 5 metre line. It's ridiculous, but it's great fun. So while he's having a go, let's give him some more pellets. So important to keep feeding. A little bit earlier I tried not putting any, I had a few foul hookers, so I put no pellets in whatsoever and couldn't get a bite. As soon as I threw 2 handfuls of pellets in, that was it, they were back. Put some bait in whilst it's swimming around out there. This fish has been hooked on the 5 metre line. Still fishing the 5 metre line. It's been that good today. Let it swim about. There's no rush. I know they're big fish and they really count at the end of the day. When it comes to getting them down on the top kit, I generally leave my pole put together and just pull it in like this, because if they go again, what you tend to find is you can't get your top kit on quick enough, which then makes you look silly, and then you end up being broke and losing the fish. When these fish are like 10 and 15 pounds, they really do, you do want them to count. Plus the fact, a lot of the time, after you've played them out there, when they get under your feet, they haven't got the energy that they did have when you first hooked them. So they're easier to get in. It's all about getting it in the net. But we took our time and we've got him in, and that's what's important. So just to show you that this 5 metre line can be absolutely deadly.